Okay, now we're ready for JCresident Arts versus Starlite Inc.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Just everybody?
Yeah.
Antonio Gutierrez on behalf of JCresident Arts and Services Incorporated.
Just spell your last name for me, Counselor.
Gutierrez.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Gutierrez. Let's have the other party sworn, please.
Please raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this court shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Sir, your name, please.
Rafael Torres.
Sir, your name.
John Sobrowski.
Sir, your name. Thank you.
Okay, so this was a unlawful detainer action, I believe?
Unlawful distraint, Your
Distraint,
Honor.
okay.
But before we continue, with all due respect to the board members, it is a corporation. They do not have an attorney present, and they should have an attorney representing the corporation, not the board members.
Okay, so we're gonna have...
That is correct, and I think I advised you of that when I called, that you were a corporation.
No, I spoke to Judge Meering, and he told me I did not have...
No, you actually said, I said you need to bring an attorney, and you said you were going to bring a priest, and I said that, well, he may have ecclesiastical authority, he doesn't have any legal authority.
Okay.
I don't know if you were the person I spoke to on the phone, but I remember the conversation very specifically, and I said that you were a corporation. Corporations, sir, I was speaking to you. I advised whoever I spoke to very clearly that under Rule 6:10 of the New Jersey Court Rules, corporate entities have to be represented by counsel in landlord-tenant court. And whoever I spoke to said, I'm bringing with me a priest, and I said that priest may have ecclesiastical authority, but they have no legal authority in the courtroom. So I did advise whoever I spoke to that they needed to have a counsel, as I did this gentleman, who also came to court without an attorney that day. So obviously, this gentleman heeded my advice and came back with counsel. You have not come back with counsel.
Your Honor, I remember correctly, you said to me, you come in, we want to know what it's all about. And I remember that's the only questions that was, you mentioned it,
Okay.
I said to him that I went over the case with you, basically what was involved with the three priests. You said, I don't know if they have any jurisdiction. I remember that, but nothing to be in a legal...
I also remember the conversation, and I remember the quote because I thought it was a pretty good quote, that the priest may have ecclesiastical authority but not legal authority.
Okay, so we
Your Honor, can I just state something? I am not a priest, but this is a tenant-landlord court. We don't consider this to be a tenant-landlord situation, so that's why I don't even understand. There's no lease involved in this. There's nothing. It was between JCresident and the three parishes up in the Heights. They had something where they needed some space. They're only paying expenses. There's no lease involved. No lease was ever signed. So I don't know that it's a landlord-tenant situation.
I wasn't sure of that either when I heard the...
Yeah, it's not. I mean, unless there's a lease. If they have a
Let me hear what
lease...
counsel has
Well,
to say.
that's necessarily true. I mean, we all know that if there's no lease agreement, it's a month-to-month tenancy. The issue here, Your Honor, is we'd like to keep it in landlord-tenant court. There is no rent per se, but there is an agreement to rent monthly expenses. However, my client, they do occupy the premises, and there is for argument's sake, there is a landlord-tenant relationship. And our position is that this has been an unlawful distraint. He currently has property in the premises for $5,000. He's made improvements to the property since 2009. In fact, he's had a relationship with the building and the board since 2007 in his individual capacity. 2009, he formed a nonprofit called JCresident Arts and Services to provide youth ministry services in the community.
Does he pay rent?
He pays $600 a month in what they call monthly expenses. Again, our position is that the court does have jurisdiction.
Why not an ejectment action rather than a landlord-tenant action?
Well, I mean, they could
Actually,
have,
no, for that, actually,
yeah,
that's
I mean,
the question
they
today,
could
yeah.
have done that, but they haven't availed themselves to the court for any reason. In fact, this is the third time that they've locked them out, and it's been an ongoing problem. Again, we submit that this is, he wants re-entry into the position, into the premises, $600 a month. We want to be able to get back into the property and effectively engage in negotiations to continue the relationship. And in this case, if we in fact think and affirm that it is a landlord-tenant relationship, we will hopefully get into a lease agreement and clarify the relationship.
Well, let me ask you another question. Is the issue in this non-payment of the fee?
Yes.
Yes.
Well, it's a not, it's a, so, if I may, Your Honor.
So how much is due and owing?
How much is back? About $5,000. And if I could just elaborate a little bit on this, the relationship that JCresident is supposed to have with the three parishes in the Heights, St. Anne's, St. Paul the Cross, and St. Nicholas. They're the ones that are supposed to be supporting him, and they are not. They have not, in the past 3 years, are willing to pay for the expenses they expect him to be doing, the work, whatever he is doing, and it's not Starlite's plans to do anything in those areas. We want to just provide that building to the youth that need it in the way they need it, and we do provide it to, we're providing to the Jersey cheerleaders. They were using it until they got their own building. So we do that type of thing. But as far as Raphael and JCresident, they don't have the pastors of the three parishes that he expects, and he's been trying to do that for the last 3-4 years. We have never locked him out until February 1st.
That's not true.
The only reason we did it as of February 1st was because of correspondence we were sending to him saying that he was behind $5,000, that he had to work with the pastors to do something. Back on November 7th, we had a meeting with him. He met with the trustees. He explained his situation, that he still needed to get their buy-in so that they would pay him the $316 a month he expected from them to help pay towards his expenses. He said if he didn't get that, and this was with the trustees he met, secretary had to work today, so she's not available, but she would be able to provide this information also. There are two other trustees here. He said if he didn't get their backing, if he couldn't do that between November 7th and January 1st, he would be out by January 29th. I've talked to one of the pastors, okay, actually he's the administrator at St. Anne's, talked to him and he said he is not going to take part in this unless the other pastors come together, the other two. And he said Raphael has been unable to get them together. So again, it's not, we don't consider ourselves landlords. We're just providing this building. And other issues he had, and I have some documentation here on that, prior boards that were involved with Starlite have tried to lock him out, have had judgments against him. There were issues with him giving keys out to people, too many people having keys. And I guess what really brought this to a head was in the month of January, one of our trustees was going by the facility, and in the first floor of the facility is a large gym. He saw some youth in there. He stopped to see who they were. They were not part of anything the trustee was familiar with. He asked them how they got in, and they had a key. And they got the key from Raphael, I would assume. Don't know for sure. So we had to go change the locks because on the bottom floor of the building, there's an after-school program. And we felt that the safety of those children in that after-school program was a problem. So Raphael has been unable to work this out for 3 years with the pastors in his Deanery 10 in the Heights. And we're sorry. If he can't get them together, I don't think he can stay in the building.
Let
But
me just
again,
ask a question, because quite frankly, the easiest thing for me to do today would be to dismiss the case because I'm not satisfied that it's really a landlord-tenant action, or I could adjourn the case because they're not represented by counsel and they're supposed to be represented by counsel. I would just, before I make that decision, I'd like to know what's the prejudice to either party if I do that? You're saying that, are there some belongings of your clients?
Correct. Yeah, Your Honor, if I may. If the board takes a position that this is not a landlord-tenant issue, then we can argue that it's a joint venture where my client agreed to pay monthly expenses of $600. I think there was an oral agreement where JCresident Arts and Services was going to pay $600 a month toward expenses. Soon after, a few months after, I forget the exact timeline, but they all of a sudden asked for an increase from $600 to $1,200 a month in monthly expenses. If this is going to be a non-landlord-tenant issue, then in fact, if it is a joint venture, then he, rightfully so, as a joint venturer, requested an accounting. Because he is not, JCresident Arts and Services is not the only entity in possession of the premises. There's another entity called Future Generations. In that case, he asked for an accounting, let me know why the increase, and I will happily pay. Yes, he has been in negotiations and conversations with 3 other parishes to assist with the payment of these monthly expenses in order to serve the youth in the community. So, like I said, my position is this is a landlord-tenant issue. It is an unlawful restraint. I understand that.
What property is in the building that he needs to get access to?
Computers, artwork, sound equipment, all amounting to approximately $5,000. In addition, to date, the youth are not being served. And there's a few other things. In addition, he's made about approximately $8,000 worth of improvements on the premises. That if he is going to get locked out and is not going to be able to negotiate, we're going to request, and this may not be for you, Your Honor, but we're going to request that that money be reimbursed or credited. So, you know, we'd like to resolve this. We'd like to resolve this, not waste any more time and money or resources. I'd like to get my client back into the premises, get his belongings, but ultimately, and the ideal situation is to continue to conduct negotiations and see if we can continue providing these services for the inner city youth that is in the community.
Your Honor, he has full access to remove his things. Friday, he removed many items on Friday, so he can get access to them to remove them out. The only issue is he doesn't have a key to get through the outer doors, and the inner door has a lock on it, a padlock that he originally put on. As far as any improvements that were made to the floor that he's on, the floor was in excellent shape. The tile floor was brand new. He decided to put one of these, glue one of these wood-type floors on top of one section of the tile. He can remove that wood if he wants to, but if he removes it, then he has to refinish that tile back the way it was. The estimate on that would be quite expensive for him, far exceeding what he thinks it was worth that he did. He never had to put it in. I mean, I could bring pictures in to show what that tile looks like. Again, I don't think this is a tenant-landlord situation.
I'm satisfied. I don't believe this is a landlord-tenant case either. I don't believe the proper form for this case is landlord-tenant.
That's fine, and the alternative.
A situation where, there's a rent that's due and owing per se on a monthly basis. There's clearly some payments that have been made, but it sounds like they've been made pursuant to some kind of a joint venture agreement or some other type of agreement that doesn't rise to the level of a landlord-tenant relationship. So I think what I'm going to have to do is dismiss the case. Also, I can't I'm not supposed to take any testimony from them today anyway, since they're not represented by counsel.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
the main issue I think that the court would like to deal with, whether I have jurisdiction or not, there was a complaint that there was some property that he needed access to. It sounds like they're willing to give him access to the premises to remove whatever he wants to remove. So as far as that emergent issue is concerned, it doesn't sound like there's any relief that you need from the court for that. So I would say that as long as he can get into the property and get whatever out that he needs to get out, it sounds like they're willing to let him do that. And then if you want to file some other application in some other court for some different cause of action, that's fine, but...
Your Honor, all we ask for is at least 24-hour notice of when he wants to go in so we can have someone there to let him in to take his stuff out, and that would be no problem. We would make ourselves available.
We're fine with that, Your Honor, and it looks like we probably will be making another application. Again, just for the record, I still do think that this is an unlawful restraint. There are damages, according to the statute, that should be awarded because it was an unlawful restraint, but I understand your position, Your Honor.
Landlord-tenant court doesn't award damages.
No, I understand that.
Does judgment of possession, not judgment of possession.
No, I understand that, but it's...
So it may be a small claims action, it may be a DC action, but I don't think it's a landlord-tenant action.
Okay.
And again, the record should reflect, even though these gentlemen were not represented by counsel, I did want to at least hear what their position was. And for any future legal proceedings that may develop, you're going to have counsel.
We will. We definitely will, Your Honor.
Okay? But for
Okay.
purposes of today, what I'm going to do is dismiss the case, because it sounds like you're willing to give him access to remove whatever it is that he
Sure.
needs to remove, and then whatever other application counsel chooses to file, he'll
That's
file.
fine.
And just make sure you have legal counsel for that one, okay?
Yes, we will.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.